Hey guys, my name's Jean-Paul and I'm gonna show you one of my favorite French dishes to cook. Now when I lived in France, I learned this dish called Coq Au Vin, which just simply translates to rooster and wine. But today we're gonna do it with venison necks. So the first process to this is just make sure you have nice and clean chunks of venison neck that's relatively fat-free, but in kind of 1.5 to 2 inch squares in chunks, and you can see that. It looks like basically like stew meat. That's exactly what we're gonna do here. But to start, what makes this kind of dish really sing is the marinade. And it's pretty simple, but you wanna just go ahead and take equal parts of celery, carrot, and onion. In French cooking, they would call this mirepoix, but you can just call it what it is: onion, carrot, and celery. It's going to go right into this neck meat. Again, this is just the marinade. I'm going to let this marinate for 24 hours before I even start cooking it. What it's going to do is, of course, as I marinate it, because again, this is in wine, this is venison necks in wine, but also it has the onion, carrot, and celery. And what that's going to do, it's going to kind of create its own beautiful little broth. And we're going to end up cooking with this and everything. So it's important that that wine and onion and carrot and celery all get mixed together. And from here, let's give it a good mix. Just get your hand in there, bring the meat up towards the top. You have your onion, celery, and carrot all displaced properly throughout. And overnight, for 24 hours, this is going to sit. And what's going to happen is all the acid and all the tannins from that wine is going to start to break down that neck meat. Now, for those who are wondering, like, why neck meat, or why any meat for that matter, the way you can think about it is that the more an animal uses a piece of meat, the more red and more flavorful it's going to be. The more it needs time to cook. For instance, a hock on a pig, right? That needs to be smoked and stewed down in greens before it starts falling apart. The tongue, the cheeks, all those things that get a lot of movement. What are deer doing every time you go out into the field? They're eating, they're going down, they're using that neck throughout where they're walking, throughout their feeding, they're constantly using it. What that means is that that meat's gonna get kind of tough, and it's been used a lot. It's got a lot of blood running through it. So what you need to do is you need to break it down. You need to fight, kind of use the ingredients that you have to kind of break down those muscle fibers, those tissues, so that when you can stew them down, they get nice and soft. And just like this, they're nice and coated. It's cooked. Nothing more than that to that marinated besides that. Now, once we bring it out the marinade, that's when we start building a lot of flavors. But for right now, this sits for 24 hours. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to go shoot another deer, and tomorrow I'm going to come back to it, and we're going to have a feast. All right, folks, we are back in the kitchen. We've had 24 hours of this venison neck and onion, celery, and carrot getting marinating in that red wine. And if you see that, there's still a lot of residual liquid in there, but you can see that that neck has really taken on that color, that wine. Now, this is kind of this next process is kind of a tedious process, but it's well worth it when you go ahead and make your stew. As best you can, you want to kind of pick through the venison, leave the carrots and the onion, celery behind. It's okay if some of it sticks, just like that. But really, we just want to try to get some of that venison out. And the reason why is because our next step is to brown this the neck meat in this pot right here. So we want to just dry it off as much as we can on this paper towel before we go into the pan. All right. So just take your time. You can kind of pick through this. If you want to cut your onion, your celery and carrot a little bit bigger, so it's a little less, cumbersome to get all that off of the meat, that's fine too. But I wouldn't stress too much about that kind of vegetable sticking on that meat right there. Continue to do this. All right, and you can see, there may be some pieces left in there, and that's okay too. You get most of that meat out, and you can see it just spread out along that paper towel, and it's good. I got a little cookie sheet right underneath here, paper towel, and that meat's just spread out along there. Try to find those last little bits here. There they are. You know, you can see me here. I got these black gloves on. That really makes this process a little easier, as I don't have to dip my hands in that cold marinade. You stay nice and clean by using the gloves. So go ahead and pick some gloves up on Amazon if you, especially cooking outdoors and maybe don't have access to, you know, all the amenities of a typical kitchen. Good to have some gloves on site. Everywhere I travel, whether it's hunting or whether I'm doing food shows or food festivals around the country, I always pack my own gloves because I like them to fit. I like my certain size glove, especially cooking barbecue like I do. You really want to have all that ready to go. Now you can see I've just taken more paper towel and I've come on top, and I'm really being intentional about drying that off. I know the more I can dry the meat off, the better it's going to sear up in that pan. So that's my focus. The longer that stays like that, the drier it get. You can even take this off and put it in the fridge and kind of let the air, the fridge dry it off. But I just kind of move it around, pat it dry. And we won't spend too much time doing this right here because I got a nice hot pot here. I'm going to go ahead and kick that flame up. Now I got my flame on hot right there because I know once I put this cold meat in there, it's going to make that pot dip down in temperature. So I really want to get it nice and ripping hot. I'm using vegetable oil here. Just want to coat the bottom. Again, we're really like frying this venison in that oil. If you got bacon grease, use that. If you got Crisco, use that. If you got fat that you've trimmed off your wild game and you've rendered that down, use that. Even better. All right. So I have your meat here. It's nice and dried. I'm going to wait for that oil to really get like smoking temperature, and then I'm going to put the meat in there and start browning that up. All right, now that my grease is getting nice and hot, I want to give this some turns with the pepper mill. I like to season my meat before searing just with pepper and no salt at first. All right, because salt tends out to bring out water out of things, and if I want to get a good caramelization, then I don't want water, so I don't use salt at this moment. I use pepper because once pepper gets brown and toasted, it actually brings out more of that flavor, and it goes great with that red meat. It doesn't take moisture out of the meat like salt would, so it actually aids in the caramelization once I put it in that hot oil. You can see this oil here getting brown. That's a pretty good sign that we're ready to go. You can also see smoke starting to farm up. That's when it's reaching a smoke point, and so we're ready to go. This is hot oil, putting cold things in. Just be careful for y'all who are doing this. And a good method is to just not go plop down, because that's gonna splash back up. To really kind of sprinkle the meat in. And already, as that meat starts to caramelize with that red wine, you can start smelling that aroma. You see there's a little onion, celery, and pepper left on the tray. I'm going to leave it there. Again, okay if that goes in right here, but no need to throw it in right now, because actually what we'll do next is I'll get fresh paper towel and we'll do the same exact thing that we did for the meat with the vegetables. So I'll just remove this real quick. Some more paper towel. Kind of get those right there. Get rid of this. Then I'm going to take this these vegetables right here that's been soaking in that wine and put them on the paper towel. Again, same thing. Really want to dry that off. And that's what this purpose is. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, what am I going to do with the red wine? I just wasted a bottle of red wine on marinating this venison and mirepoix. Well, this red wine is now a flavoring agent in our stew. All right. And again, for those who were with me last night, this is a version of, in France, you would make Coq Au Vin, which means rooster and wine, but we got venison necks. So maybe we say venison and vin, or venison cooked in wine. And I love the necks, got tons of flavor in those necks. And this technique of marinating for 24 hours and roasting like that, it's really great for those pieces of meat that need a lot of time cooking and a lot of marinating time. Kind of just lay that out right there. Move that. And get to my venison here. You give it a little stir. It's looking awesome. It's smelling amazing. Wow. You really get all those different red wine, kind of cinnamon, kind of bitter and sweet elements from that red wine, especially after it's soaked with the onions and carrots and celery. And again, this mixture right here, that's going to be our main liquid that goes back into this pot. So it's kind of coming full circle. While that's browning, let's grab this. And again, I want to press it down. It doesn't need to be completely dry. Just want to dry it off as much as possible so it can get good and caramelized into your sauce. I'm going to just let this hang out until our necks are done. Okay, my meat is looking awesome. It's nice and brown. There's really this really great color that's happening around the pot. That's all good flavor. I'm going to take my vegetables off here. You see them there. They're not fully dry, but that's okay. Go right into the pot from here. All right. Hard to do. That and that. Rest them out the way. All right. The onion, celery, and carrot are in here. Just give it a good stir. And you essentially want to do the same thing that you did to the venison to your vegetables. And as the venison continues to brown, those vegetables are going to brown too. So we're just going to keep that on hot. If you need to add a little bit more oil, go ahead and do that at this point. But it looks like I have enough here. We're just going to continue to cook all that mixture to develop the caramelization. It's going to happen pretty fast because of the red wine, and the sugars in that wine are going to create this great little texture on the meat and on the vegetables. We want to continue to cook that down. It's going to complexualize, and that's going to create a great base for your braise. All right, you can put any amount of different vegetables in your venison braised in red wine. I like potatoes and mushrooms, especially in the fall or in the late winters. Just a nice, hearty, unctuous dish. I like to use button mushrooms in here, but go ahead and feel free to use any wild mushroom you find in the woods. Just be careful you're checking, different books and different references. Make sure you're eating the right kind of edible mushrooms. But for this, I'm not going to put these mushrooms in right now. I'm going to kind of really let this cook for 3 or 4 hours so that neck meat starts to get tender. But while I'm waiting, I might as well cut these mushrooms up. But they won't go in for Probably not until we're about an hour till it's done. 'Cause I don't want my mushrooms like completely disintegrating in the stew. That's what would happen if I left them in the whole time, because obviously this mushroom takes a lot less time to cook than the venison necks. And I'm just, no rhyme or reason here. If it's a big mushroom, I cut it in quarters. If it's a smaller mushroom, I cut it in half. If it's a really tiny one like this, maybe just keep it whole. If they have any dirt, just take your hands and kind of rub that off, or you can use a paper towel to rub that off. For the most part, these mushrooms are pretty clean. Same with potatoes. If I put potatoes in the beginning of the cook, they would fall apart, turn to mush, and they wouldn't be much use to us anymore. So instead, I'm going to wait till about 2 hours before we're ready to drop those into the braise to cook and to kind of take on all those flavors. Same with the mushrooms. If they're big potato, I might cut them in quarters. If they're small, cut them in half. Go ahead and use, I like red bliss potatoes because they're more waxy than starchy. I think they actually get a little creamier too when they're cooked, especially in a wet environment like we're going to do. And when I say braise, guys, so braise is usually tougher cuts of meat that are put in stock or broth or a sauce and just cooked for a long time on a really low heat. That just breaks down those muscle fibers, gets it nice and tender, and that's exactly what a braise is. You can do a braise on top of the stove like I'm cooking right now, or you can put it in the oven. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have the oven set to about 300 degrees, and it's going to braise at 300 once I get it all put together. And that helps because of the ambient heat of the oven. It's, you know, that pot is surrounded, so it bakes it a lot more evenly. Then right here, heat's just coming from up top, so you risk burning the bottom, or you risk different, you know, the fire getting shut off or whatever. The oven's just fine, a lot more consistent using the ambient heat of that oven. You see already, this is looking awesome. The onions, the carrot, the celery. There's a little bit of cloves of garlic in here as well. They're all just getting nice and caramelized in there. Now, sometimes when you read in recipes, you might see the word deglaze, right? And if you're unfamiliar with what that means, well, we're going to do that in just a second. But what it means is basically a deglaze is you're using a liquid to remove all of those caramelized bits from the bottom of the pan. Those bottom of the pan bits is what flavors your broth, favors your braise, and it really has those roasted meat and roasted vegetable qualities. That's a good thing. That's exactly what this wine's going to do when we add it to there. And there's a lot of good caramelization bits down there to be deglazed. So this is a little tomato paste. This just helps add a little bit more body, a little bite to the braise, a little depth of those tomatoes. There's no tomato in this dish at all, aside from this tomato paste. You don't need a lot either. A little goes a long way with tomato paste, especially in a thing like this. If you were making a red sauce, you know, American red sauce and meatballs, you can make venison meatballs and tomato gravy. You might use a little more tomato paste. I'm just going to use about a tablespoon here. I'm going to throw it right in with it. Another thing tomato paste is great about, it browns really well. It creates even more caramelization on the bottom. It's super concentrated in sugar, being that it's tomato paste. So you really want to make sure once that tomato paste is in, you're kind of on a ticking clock here because it can burn. So you want to be very mindful. You want to stir it. You don't want to walk away from the stove at this point. I'm going to add a little bit more in. This is really, really looking good here. It smells amazing. It looks amazing. I can't wait to watch this kind of come together and sit down in front of a campfire, have a bowl of this tonight. At this point, it's ready for our red wine mixture. If you have a little chicken stock or some venison stock that you made at home, this is a good time to maybe use a little bit of it, because I have a good bit of red wine here, and that's all I'm gonna basically use for this. But if you want to just add more depth and more flavor, stock's great. You can reduce it down, and it'll add a good body to that. Now you can hear that water hit the bottom of the pan, that sizzle. That's the action that deglazes the bottom of the pan. So from there, you just want to give it a good stir. Make sure you can feel all those bits really coming off the bottom. So a little secret to really great Coq Au Vin, or in this case, venison and red wine, is cocoa powder. I love cocoa powder with any red meat, especially long braises. This is 100% cocoa, so it's extremely bitter. It's what you would make brownies and so on with. You know, if you're baking, you can also use like really, really dark chocolate. That works too. This just adds this very velvety texture to the dish. It adds bitterness and like extreme depth to the dish. Again, a lot like tomato paste. You don't need a lot. You don't want it to taste like chocolate. You just want it to have a little of that nuttiness. I'm gonna just kind of hit it like that. Sprinkle it over, maybe a little bit more, and just stir that in. You can see already that chocolate just lending to that braise. Now at this point, I'm very close to going in the oven, so I'm gonna just turn it down for a second. Turn down for a second. I'll take this opportunity to taste my braise and taste that cooking liquid. Again, this meat needs a lot of time to cook. So whatever we put in the seasoning right now, it's got good bones. It's got a good foundation to it. It does need some salt. You hit it with a little salt. I brought some of the rub that we use at Blue Smoke. We call this Game Changer rub. I love this rub for wild game, but also lamb, goat, duck, geese, anything like that. It's got a lot of fall spice to it. What I mean by that, clove, cardamom, brown sugar. Has a little Szechuan pepper in it too. For those not familiar with Szechuan pepper, one of my favorite ingredients. Don't go overpower with it, but it's a pepper used in Szechuan cooking in China, and it has like a little tingle to it. And has an element of heat that you can't get from an habanero or a jalapeno or a cayenne pepper. And Szechuan food, they call that ma la. And ma and la is two different things. And ma is heat and la is the tingle. I could have those switched, but essentially Szechuan food, it's all based on this term ma la, which is spicy and tingle. And tingle you get from Szechuan pepper. It's just gonna be perfect in here because of that cocoa and that red wine with all these different cloves and orange spices. Just give it a little sprinkle on top. Again, you can make this rub fairly easy, or you can come to New York and get it from Blue Smoke. Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. So it's seasoned perfectly. It's got salt. It's got those warm spices from there. It's got a lot of black pepper in there. It's got the right acid. It's right where I want it to go for another 3 hours before I check the necks and see how they're cooking. So we're gonna have this, it's now simmering nice. We're gonna put a lid on it. It's gonna go in the oven for at 300 degrees for about 3 hours. We're gonna come back and check it and see how much longer we need, but it's shaping up to be a great dish. All right, we're back, and our venison and wine has been in the oven for 3 hours. We're gonna go ahead and now put the potatoes and the mushrooms in. I'm gonna give it one more taste just to make sure that it doesn't need any extra adjusting and seasoning, but it's smelling right. It's smelling right for sure. Give it a little taste here. Oh man, it is coming together. We can give this another hour, and then we'll be ready to eat. How I like to serve this, when we're ready, just grill up some crusty French bread, Plop that in the bowl and put that French bread right on top and kind of just use that French bread as a spoon to sop up that gravy while you eat your venison. Stay tuned. All right, folks, it's been 4 hours since our venison necks went in the oven. They're done. They're smelling awesome. We're gonna just plate it up real quick. As you can see, I've grilled off some French bread right here. I like to have that off to the side. What I'll do first is kind of just cut some of this bread. Some nice loaves. You can see that's just beautifully nice and toasted. I like to just prop it up right in the edge here. Now while I scoop, now you can see right here, potatoes, the mushrooms, the venison, it's all nice and cooked, soft, tender, juicy, flavorful. I've checked it for seasonings. It's ready to go. What I like to do is just scoop it right in this bowl, have that bread propped up just like that. Just fill her up. And have that bread soak up all that juice, that venison and red wine sauce right there. You really smell the cocoa and all the clove and the red wine really perfuming off of this bowl. Cold night at the deer camp, can't get better than that. Venison necks cooked in red wine.